In the process of reading a lot of articles and also watching a lot of YouTube videos based on the music industry and music production, I've noticed there's a plethora of content out there based off this new direct-to-consumer model where an artist promotes and sells their product directly to fans without any major label or third-party backing. Essentially, this puts the power of the music back into the hands of the creators where it should be. With that being said, I think it's safe to say that in reality, this has always been the way, and maybe the biggest mistake we've made as creators is putting our music in the hands of someone else, especially someone who doesn't understand the culture in which the music has developed from. Contrary to the idea of this being a new discovery, the idea of direct-to-consumer has always been a thing, even dating back to the 80s and 90s. There was a time when local and underground artists would sell their music hand in hand, some even literally out the trunk.
Everything. I started the trunk of my car, just like E-Boy and Too Short. I grew up in a competition they grew up in, but what made me different, I started a retail store. And by me having a retail store, I was able to study the product and study as a business person as far as retailing a product to a consumer.
Some artists will work directly with mom and pop record stores under consignment. Basically, as an artist, you would give your CDs to the stores for a certain price, and the store would sell them for a bit more. You, as the artist, would make your money back, and the store owners would take their cut off the top, a win-win situation. In this series, we want to touch on the areas that have had the most success using this method. So without further ado, today, we begin with my home state, and the most obvious example for myself to start with, the Texas rap scene. When you think about early Texas rap, you gotta go back to the early Rap-A-Lot days with acts like Royal Flush, Raheem, and the original Ghetto Boys, which initially was Sir Jukebox, Sir Rap-A-Lot, and Prince Johnny C, before what most may know as Scarface, Willie D, the late Bushwick Bill, as well as the late DJ Ready Red, R.I.P. Not to mention a long list of artists like Gangsta Nip, OG Style, The Convicts with Big Mike and Mr. 3-2, R.I.P., The Odd Squad with Devin the Dude, and even Big Mello, R.I.P. Also, we have to shout out DJ Daryl Scott and the late MC Wicked Cricket, R.I.P. At the time, Rap-A-Lot was one of the few entities in Houston in the South that had major label distribution and backing.
I done a production deal with A&M Records with Raheem. That went okay, but at the time A&M Records didn't know jack about rap, so they didn't do a good job with Raheem. But through the advances and the money that I got from A&M, I placed a stronger foundation for Rap-A-Lot.
As well as Suave House, founded by Tony Draper, which had artists like 8Ball and MJG, and Tila from Memphis, as well as South Circle with Mr. Mike and Crime Boss. But there were other movements going on in the area through independent and self-made labels, one of those being groups like Street Military with Pharaoh, Lil Flea, KB the Kidnapper, Icy Hot, and Nut. Also, you had the South Park Coalition with K Reno, Point Blank, Dope E, Klondike Cat, and Murder One. All these names ring bells in the city of Houston, and all that music has been bought and sold in the streets, as well as mom and pop stores across the South. For anyone who is familiar with DJ Screw, you know it's a well-known fact that Screw started at his house selling tapes and CDs before eventually opening his own store, the Screw Shop, in the south side of Houston.
This rap game, it's a way of life for us, you know what I'm saying? We ain't just not in the studio just doing nothing. Everything we do, that's our life, you know what I'm saying? It's a way of life for us, you know what I'm saying? We just trying to put it down, help everybody come up, you know what I'm saying, in this game.
Many upcoming artists would get their start on these Screw tapes. Artists such as Lil Kiki, Botany Boys, ESG, Lil O, KK, Mike D, Youngstar, Zero, Trey, Lil Flip, as well as those no longer with us, like Fat Pat, Big Hawk, Big Mo, Big Pokey, Mafio, Big Steve, Mr. 3-2, BG Gator, Mac Grace, and more, R.I.P. These tapes would be sold in large volumes and would change the way music was promoted and sold in the state of Texas and the South. A lot of these artists were signed to big time records and independent record labels started by Russell Washington, who also passed away early last year, R.I.P. At one point in time, UGK was signed to big time, releasing Southern Way and Band before signing with Jive. They also signed PSK 13, 20 to Life, and Reckless Clan. Those familiar with Southwest Wholesale or Southwest Distribution know if you could get your product to these types of distributors, as well as every mom and pop store who does consignment, you can make a lot of money, as long as you have some good music. DJ Screw's movement would spawn several others in Houston, as well as other parts of Texas. Most notably, Swisher House, started by DJ Michael Watts and OG Ron C., who is now an in-house producer at OVO Sound. Swisher House, making its mark in the late 90s and early 2000s, will spawn a long list of talent, names like Slim Thug, Archie Lee, Kuda Bang, Chamillionaire, Paul Wall, Mike Jones, Magno, 50-50 Lil Twin, and probably more. Swisher House will follow the same format like Screw, selling CDs out the trunk, as well as mom and pop stores across the South. I'm pretty sure Chamillionaire's mixtape Messiah was one of the greatest selling mixtapes of all time, and I'm sure he sold quite a few directly from his website, chamillionaire.com. There will be several other groups and independent labels that will take the same approach. Groups such as the Freestyle Kings, DSR out of Dallas, and Mr. Pookie and Mr. Lucci, who started their own label, Crawl the Ball Records, which is now Stony Crook Records. On a side note, Mr. Pookie, according to SoundScan, had the highest selling independent album in Dallas with The Rippler, and may be still to this day.
To this day!
There's been an insane amount of groups and independent labels in the area who have followed suit and had success independently. In San Antonio, you had groups like PKO, Southern Merchandise, Lamb Entertainment, and Tone City, as well as Third Degree and Get Money Click, who I was an original member of. As a member of Get Money Click, we did over 1,500 shows, going on tour around Texas and other parts of the South, as well as selling over 100,000 records, you guessed it, independently in the streets, in as many mom and pop stores as we could find. At one point in time, my homie PT, who was also part of Get Money Click, or GMC, had his own store called Texas Sounds, where he would sell all underground music that came out in the area, including all of our releases. When you have a fire product, a dope stage performance, in a storefront to sell your own music from, as well as other well-known acts in the area, things tend to fall into place. Sounds like a winning recipe to me. The state of Texas has mastered the art of direct-to-consumer years ago. In a place where there was no major labels at one point in time, independent musicians and label owners were forced to take matters into their own hands. We figured out a long time ago that rather than waiting for a label to pay us a small percentage of our own product, we could leverage and sell our own product and see the lion's share of the profits. A good example of this today is what Sauce Walka has done with the Sauce Factory, making a name for himself, as well as signing other artists and giving them a platform to do the same. I love the idea of direct-to-consumer, which is why I decided to make this serious. With that being said, the question is, do we, as artists, continue to distribute our music to streaming companies like Spotify, Apple Music, or Tidal for pennies on the dollar? Or do we take the music back into our own hands, selling directly from our own websites, while still utilizing platforms like social media and YouTube for promotional and advertisement purposes? Is streaming the way? Or do we go back to physical media like CDs and vinyl? Maybe we need to start looking toward the next form of physical media, whatever that may be. Maybe it's something that already exists, or maybe it's something that needs to be invented. Whatever it may be, we need to figure it out as an industry so the artists of the future at least have a fair shot and don't have to start completely from scratch like a lot of us had to. To all the artists out there, know your worth. Take a chance, and let's figure this thing out together. Stay solid.